It's time to get you caught up with all things sports.
Yes! 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 Yes!
On the throw-in.
One thing is certain. None of this is possible without you, the listeners.
From baseball, football, wrestling, and more, covering local Cincinnati sports stories, news, and highlights.
Why is he always calling me?
With your host, Justin Trento.
When it's all said and done, we're going to look back and remember this is what started it all.
Available on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Let's play the ball! Let's play the ball!
What is going on, everyone, and a happy Saturday morning wherever you guys are at. Thank you guys for jumping on in and tuning in to another episode of The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. My name is Justin, and, we have a very, very impactful episode for you guys today. This is what we love talking about on our channel day in and day out because we got football coming up, and we'll talk about the conference championships and the AFC NFC matchups later on this weekend. We also have, we get closer to pitchers and catchers reporting. We're officially on the last week of January. So by Thursday of next week will be in February, and about 2 weeks from then, pitchers, catchers report, and then we have spring training games and baseball season. I got a hot take on baseball coming your way later on in this episode. It's about the off season. Then we have the Royal Rumble, which officially marks the beginning to the road to WrestleMania. Now, I think you guys know my take on that. Road to WrestleMania, in my opinion, officially starts in, the first day, the first episode of the new year in the WWE, in all honesty. And we saw that earlier this month when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson returned and, excuse me, and he proclaimed that he wants to sit at the head of the table, which can only speculate one thing. He wants Roman Reigns, and that's a WrestleMania match. So there's already a lot going on, a lot of creativity, which is exciting heading into the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania this year, which you have to be excited about. WrestleMania 40, it's a big venue. It's like WrestleMania 25, you kind of hit that milestone mark each and every time. But we can't really begin, talking about any of this because we got some developing news. Unfortunately, it goes right back around to everything earlier this week, learning that the former CEO of the WWE, Vince Kennedy McMahon, has now resigned from TKO the day after an ex-employee files a lawsuit. And just looking at some of these headlines, if you just Google WWE, you don't even have to scroll down. USA Today has a headline of WWE's Vince McMahon resigns after being accused of sex trafficking assault. NESN reports Vince McMahon resigns from all positions at TKO/WWE. Bleacher Report has updated 2024 Royal Rumble, so they have one Royal Rumble card. Two, a lot of it's about Vince McMahon. And it seems to me, within this past year so far, somehow, some way, shape, or form, every time we get to a closer, a big moment like WrestleMania, I mean, you saw what happened last year at WrestleMania. Vince McMahon stepped in at, the day after WrestleMania concluded. And instead of wanting to talk about all of these matches and all of the hype and everything that transpired over 2 days, we ended up having to settle for Vince McMahon selling the company. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it just seems like here lately, every time WWE had something great to talk about, they just seem to take a few steps back because Vince McMahon finds himself in the news, whether it's good or bad. This one's pretty bad. Now, we know over the last few years that Vince McMahon has had some office issues that has probably led to selling the company one thing that we're most certain about Vince McMahon is that he's always standing by his statement. He will always defend, and regardless, I don't want to say this is a positive thing, but he does pretty well for himself when he defends. This is the article that was written by Matt Copinger on ESPN last night. The headline was Vince McMahon resigns from TKO day after ex-employee's lawsuit. And it goes on to say, and I'll end up sharing this on our Facebook page. It goes on to say Vince McMahon, who co-founded the modern WWE in 1982, has resigned from his role as a TKO executive chairman and from his position on the TKO board of directors. He said in a statement provided to ESPN Friday night. Now, this is all, don't forget, beginning of this week, we had Dwayne Johnson joining the board of directors, which I thought was a big move. But now we see this. Vince McMahon, because of these accusations, has resigned. McMahon, 78, leaves the publicly traded company, which was formed when UFC merged with the WWE last year, following a lawsuit filed Thursday that accused him of sexual misconduct. I'm like, oh no, what are we getting into again? In the lawsuit, Janelle Grant, who worked in the WWE's legal and talent department, alleges that McMahon forced her into a sexual relationship in order for her to obtain and keep her job and passed around pornographic pictures and videos of her to other men. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm reading this article for the very first time. And so if you're listening to some disturbing things, I'd pre-warn you. I mean, I know this is kind of late notice, but I pre-warn you. I did not know what I'm reading into, but this is legit matter. This was a lawsuit filed on Thursday by Janelle Grant, a ex-employee in the legal department, who was forced to do some sort of sexual relationship in order to keep her job. She also had to distribute pornographic pictures and videos to her of her to other men, including other employees. The lawsuit, which was filed in U.S. District Court in Connecticut, where the WWE is headquartered, also names WWE and John Laurinaitis, the company's former head of talent relations and general manager, as defendants. Grant alleges abuse and sexual exploitation beginning in March of 2020. It's around the pandemic. And the lawsuit, including several text messages, screenshots, and purported to be McMahon's asking for depraved sexual acts. In a statement written and given by McMahon himself, I stand by my prior statement that Ms. Grant's lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene, made-up instances that never occurred, and this is vindictive distortion of the truth. McMahon goes on to say, I intend to vigorously defend myself against these baseless accusations and look forward to clearing my name. However, and this is where he gets down to resigning. However, out of respect for the WWE universe, the extraordinary TKO business and its board members and shareholders, partners and constituents, and all of the employees and superstars who helped make the WWE into a global leader it is today, I have decided to resign from my executive chairmanship and the TKO board of directors, effective immediately. So, where do you even begin to kind of let this all sink in? Because, as a matter of fact, I had Steve from Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast was the one who shared this article with me. Not this article, but I believe he's the one who shared about Vince McMahon being he's the one who brought up the accusation, the other lawsuit. He's the one who shared a link about the resignation. And I have such mixed emotions right now going on when you are so in bed set on a company. It's like telling you that the Cincinnati Bengals is nothing but a lie or a scam or a cheat. That in the open they are these go-lucky goody couldn't do nothing wrong team, successful, but behind the scenes they're cheating. They're doing things that they're taking money from fans. I don't know where to begin. As a wrestling fan, I grew up on the WWE, and this is nothing new. We've seen allegations before. But to continue to see them, to continue being associated with the WWE, and no matter how far away Vince McMahon gets away from WWE or TKO, this is always going to come back around and leave some sort of image on the WWE itself, because this is what he's known for the past 40 years. WWE, when you think of World Wrestling Entertainment, hell, for the matter of you thinking of professional wrestling itself, you can't help but think of Vince McMahon, the guy who created the industry that it is today. And then to see behind closed doors that, we knew he wasn't a, perfect, good Christian saint, who's done nothing wrong. But to see the levels of explosion that he's given among staff members, even recently, it's not like these are, cases that happened in the 90s or early 2000s, where, you'd probably be common to see most of this stuff, occur. This is 2020, less than 4 years ago, during the pandemic. And I mean, regardless if he's innocent or not, this just it just puts a bad image on the McMahon family. It puts a bad image on the WWE. Now, luckily, we're sitting at a spot where the WWE, I think, is thriving, where they can definitely bounce back for something like this. Now, if this was 2 years ago and, with how the WWE was, then I don't know, in all honesty, but it just sucks because, you kind of are inspired, you got inspired by one of the most successful businessmen in the world. I mean, for the last 40 years, and to seeing that he's nothing but a corrupted figure now, it's like, how can you even hold these conversations? And it's hard. It's also a very tough, a touchy subject, because we're dealing with accusations, we're dealing with sexual misconduct, we're dealing with legal pursuit, and I most certainly definitely don't want to give you guys the wrong information. This article, we're talking about investigations to the 2022 amid allegations in those lawsuits. Nick Khan, I wanted to inform you that Vince McMahon has tendered his resignation from his position as TKO executive chairman and on the TKO board of directors. WWE President Nick Khan told all staff in a memo obtained by ESPN on Friday night he will no longer have a role with TKO Group Holdings or WWE. So this is now, the right direction, obviously. Who knows? I mean, how much of this was, McMahon knowing, hey, listen, this is not your guys' battle. I don't need to drag you guys underground, which I would love to think that maybe that's how he approached it. Or this was TKO saying, all right, we had enough. It's before we take action against you, you have the option to just walk away. And, this was, one of the probably most certain reasons why he even decided to sell the company to TKO, nonetheless, to anyone else, the Time movement. I know, you've heard interviews and statements saying that, oh, this is just part of business, it's time to go. And I'm sure, listen, if he didn't get rid of it years ago, what made you think he was going to get rid of it now? But as these lawsuits still come forth, because this isn't going to be the last one, we will keep you informed. Any other developing breaks in this story, we will definitely let you know here. But, man, right around the Royal Rumble. But that's okay. We're not going to let this get in the way of the Royal Rumble, because we are still going to have a lot of fun, a lot of conversations. So we got football talks, we got baseball talks, and we got wrestling talks that's going to fill our show for the next 2 hours. So we got nothing but great, exciting 2-hour product for you guys here this Saturday morning. So don't go nowhere. You guys are watching this on our YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter. Hit the like, subscribe, download us, take us on the road with you audio-wise. Be sure to head over to our website at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. You catch all the latest videos, blogs, audios, social media posts, everything. You can check out our website at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. All right, we're going to take a break. Come on back, and we'll break down the conference championships right here. You guys are listening to The Throwing on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty. We got to give a big shout out to StreamYard.com. Oh gosh, it's early Monday. I don't know how I'm doing this. Got to give a shout out to StreamYard.com, the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All of our episodes, all of our guests are given to you thanks to StreamYard.com. For more information, check out StreamYard.com. You have free options too. Great place if you're looking to create your own podcast or talk show, whatever you guys are out there doing it, man. I was supposed to do a show last night. That was the original intent. Elias here, who just by the way, this past Tuesday turned 4 months old. It's going up too fast, man. I gotta say. 4 months old, and he's already cutting teeth. Now, it's not one of his first 4 teeth. It's his top left, I believe. And I'm like, and you could feel it. You could feel where it's actually broken through. And so he's been teething, which then leads in, it's like a domino effect. It leads into everything else. He wasn't quite feeling good. He was actually doing really good yesterday up until about 2:00, or actually up until about noon. And then from there, he would not go down. He would not settle. He'd want some sort of comfort. It was just one of those days where he wanted everything for himself. And no matter what you did, it wasn't enough. It didn't give you enough time to please. And, I was going to do a show yesterday. I think we actually set up to do a show yesterday. But then, negotiating with my wife, and I was like, either I can do a show, tonight, or I could do a show, first thing in the morning. And so, she, and the balance is that, when can I do a show is when, hey, I want you to spend time with me at night. She's very passionate about that. So, I ended up spending time with her, and everything worked out fine, but still, and that's why I did a show today. And we got a busy day today. We got to drive about, I want to say about 45 minutes, maybe an hour away, to a different county to go to my wife's cousin's daughter's first birthday. So that's going to be fun. We haven't been to this county, like deep into this county. She was, wife was born and raised there, but I haven't been to this county. So we're going to have a good day today. It's also supposed to be cloudy. It's supposed to be moderate 40s, 50s. It's also supposed to be raining later on this afternoon. So the wife just left with our son who out to grocery shopping. So by the time we get back, we could just get up and go. But anyways, that's enough about my life right now, because this weekend, I know we're kind of going backwards from Sunday back to Saturday, but I wanted to get just, there hasn't been a lot of conversation in the sports world about, in the football world here last week, other than Jim Harbaugh signing with the Los Angeles Chargers. And that's great news. That's blockbuster news. That's something that's worth to be talked about all off season. But that has zero impact on what we're about to see this weekend in the conference championships. You got Detroit and San Francisco. We got Kansas City and Baltimore. And the winner of these two games are going to headline Super Bowl 58. Now, there's a lot out there on social media. A lot out there. One of the things that is out there is about the color schemes. Well, what are your colors? This year color schemes, if it relates to who the Super Bowl contenders are going to be, then it has to be the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. And that's a sweet matchup for me. But Listen, if you look at these final four teams, you look at the underdog in this one, maybe the nation's favorite. You have to probably go with the Detroit Lions. They're writing this unbelievable story that, a win or loss tomorrow night can mean anything, and you got to hold your head up high regardless, because they were a successful team. We knew that they were going to be a successful team, but we just didn't know how good they were. Like, we knew that, hey, they're going to go into the postseason. They were going to, maybe win a postseason game. We just realistically, logically did not know how far the Detroit Lions can go. And right now, heading into San Francisco, they kind of seem more of the put together team that is just synchronized. It's about being synchronized, you guys. Complete. And, and this definitely, the NFC Championship game is going to be a difficult game to determine. And I like both of them. You have the nation's team that everyone's kind of low-key rooting for, although they don't want to be the ones to admit it, because if they don't win, they're like, oh, well, I never rooted for them. The Niners all the way, baby. No. The 49ers on this hand, though, they've been here. I think they have, not looking too far ahead, but they're giving themselves a perfect opportunity. You take care of go take care of the Lions and then head on over to the Super Bowl, and you're going to have a chance, either team you're facing, to kind of create a how do you want to call it, a revenge sinking moment, because the 49ers lost to the Chiefs years ago. The 49ers lost to the Ravens a little over a decade ago. And so either matchup, I got a chance as a Super Bowl redemption to win the Super Bowl. So I'm looking at this game and I'm just like, all right, who do I want to win? And I really don't care who wins, but I'm going to have to, if I had to choose one, I think San Francisco is probably better off. Yes, San Francisco looked sloppy last week, but you can't compare San Francisco to Detroit when you have Brock Purdy, who I know, listen, he's such a young quarterback, and I think a lot of people put high expectations on this kid. I mean, this is only his first full year, and you're expecting him to play flawlessly, but he's also pairing up against untouchable guys like Kittle and Deebo Samuel. And when you have those two punch combinations, it's just picking and choosing your battles to win and where. And maybe last week was a bit off, and if they make those same mistakes this week, I don't think San Francisco could hold up. But that's the luxury of the postseason. You can make changes. The biggest question heading into the NFC Championship game is the 49ers defense against Jared Goff. Now, Jared Goff has been there. He's done that. He's played in the Super Bowl before. This is nothing new to him. He's also riding on the coattail of this kind of too good to be true dream catch scenario. And so, although I am low-key rooting for the Detroit Lions to win, I have to put my blue chips into San Francisco, because I feel like they are, though they're not the most put-together piece team, they're still more well-rounded. I think that they'll just go in and just beat the Lions. It's going to be a very close game, very close matchup, but I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit wins. And if Detroit wins, guess what? I mean, it's a win-win. Now, next, the other side of the, NFL, we see the AFC Championship, Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. This one's a bit harder on me. As a Cincinnati Bengals fan, I don't want to see either team go into the Super Bowl, nonetheless win the Super Bowl. But I got to tip my cap to what Baltimore has done. I mean, they are the most completed team in the NFL this past season. And, when you've seen, the headlines of the Dallas Cowboys, hey, we're going to beat you and we're just going to run the football down your throats. Well, that was just talk. When the Ravens, and they didn't have to tell you, the Ravens just showed up and they said, you know what? We're going to beat you. We're going to, run the football down the field, score a touchdown. And regardless if you like it or not, we got Lamar Jackson at quarterback. We got all these other, great athletes that can shine. And if one doesn't work, another one will, trust me. And we're just going to simply flat out and win. You're not going to like it? Oh, well, who cares? We're here to win. And I feel like that's just a mindset. And what's dangerous is that, Baltimore is that evil crow sitting up there on the tree that when you see them coming, you cringe. You're like, oh no. Kansas City Chiefs this past year was like, dude, I have a fighting chance. It doesn't matter who their opponent was this year. They had a fighting chance. But Baltimore, you almost gave up before you got to the stadium because it's the Ravens, for heaven's sake. Surprised they didn't go 17-0. No, Lamar Jackson has a lot to prove this year. I think they're just continuing. I mean, I don't think you get any better than this, in my opinion. I mean, I will argue left and right to say that this was this Ravens team is better than the Chiefs teams combined. I see Baltimore kind of going to the Super Bowl. I'm a fan favorite of Baltimore for some reason, and 49ers to head back to the Super Bowl. And I would, if that's the case, I'm going 49. I think I'm going to 49ers if they win tomorrow. I'm going NFC if they win tomorrow. I think the only way I would go AFC for the Super Bowl is if Baltimore would win and they go on to face Detroit. So, I mean, this is great conversation. There just hasn't been a lot of conversation about it. Coming back from because we got to take a break, but coming back, like I said, it's a dangerous. We're watching Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Baltimore have postseason success. We've seen how dangerous Baltimore could be, in this year. And I don't think it's a one and done, right? Maybe for one of the three teams, but not for Baltimore. But I got some big questions about Cincinnati football that I don't think fans are really looking at this. And I really don't think the Bengals are going to be looking at this. And I got to be honest with you. Okay. And I hate to burst the bubble, but Bengals fans, Bengals alone need to be very, very concerned heading into this season, heading into this offseason. And I'll explain why. But AFC, NFC championships coming up. I predict that the Baltimore Ravens will win, 49ers will win on the NFC side, and we'll see a Super Bowl rematch between the Ravens and 49ers, 11 years in the making. The only sweet spot, the only thing that hurts is that Jim Harbaugh is not on the other side. I just don't. I argue that Kansas City is not put together all so well. They have flaws. They've seen it last year. We talked about turning on that switch for Kansas City. Maybe they knew something that we didn't know into the season, that you don't have to be perfect. You just got to make it to the postseason. and you could turn off that playoff atmosphere, that playoff motivation, that playoff intel, and you can be like, all right, playoff time, we are 10 times better than what we are now. We know that. We're going to play like that. I have yet to see that. Even Buffalo had an opportunity last week to win. So you got lucky against Miami. You beat Miami, 26-7. And it was frigid cold temperatures. It was snowing. It was probably your best field advantage you've had all season long. Then you went into Buffalo and you guys were going back and forth. And what prevailed you guys from advancing was a kick, right? A field goal miss. If you played the whole what if game, and I know this is reluctant on a what if, but if you played a what if game for Kansas City, well, what if Buffalo made that field goal? You're in overtime. What if you went into the overtime and, you guys put yourself in a losing position? There's no promises. So, all right, let's come back and talk some Bengals football, because we haven't talked about it in a while. You guys are listening to Throwing on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right, let's head back into this. Uh, I'm scrolling through X, here, and and I've seen, it's so we got all right. So here's my thing. We got the Royal Rumble tonight, and we're gonna talk about that a lot in hour number 2. And I think AEW is trying to match that convincing, hey, for those who don't have Peacock, tune in to Collision tonight on TNT, where you're going to see Escape the Cage elimination match between the House of Black, Garcia, and FTR. And I wouldn't mind actually seeing it. I mean, according to the ad, and I'll repost this. It looks compelling. I may actually watch that match, but talking about earlier, kicking off the show with the allegations that are made by Vince McMahon that forced him to resign from TKO and TKO board of directors. Jim Cornette remarks about this. Jim Cornette suggests Janelle Grant seemingly enjoyed Vince McMahon's act in trafficking alongside. I think that's ridiculous. That was by Ringside News. And then I had this here. And then it's like, we talk about the impact that it leads on the fans and going to these events. Every time you see something like this happens, even though Vince McMahon is no longer, a part of the WWE, there's still just, it's like, it's so messed up that you just don't want nothing to do with it. Grimm, leader of Belt Federation at Grimm's Toy Show, it's like, my God, this McMahon stuff is turning my stomach. Hell no, hell to the bleeping no. I'm not going to the Rumble now. Bleep this. I'm like, well, yeah, you're gonna get fans who just do not want to participate in anything. They don't want to participate until anything that has to associate this, regardless if he's guilty or not. Vince McMahon has created now this image that if someone is, even has a reason to attempt to file some sort of accusation lawsuit against you, there has to be a part of it that's just like, what else is out there, in my opinion. Vince Russo just tweeted out just now, man, bro, I'm a big advocate for innocent until proven guilty. 100%. I'm also a big advocate of not labeling anybody a liar until that is proven. As well, as I look at this Vince McMahon story, I am certain of one thing: the effect, true or false, it has on his family being a. Let me finish reading it here because it'll show more. So being a grandfather myself, that's where my mind goes. And that's such an unfortunate part of all of this. And it's actually russosbrand.com. So, you're getting a lot of tweets out there. You got hateful tweets, my thing is that, like I said, the fact that the conversation's out there, Vince McMahon, it hurts not just McMahon. It hurts the family. It hurts the legacy. It hurts the future of the McMahon family. I mean, I'm sure Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H, takes some sort of heat against this, even if he has nothing to do with it. The WWE is associated with it because it's titled, just because it's the name and the Vince McMahon, aura. everyone is affected by this. And I think that's what hurts the most. You're going to get fans that decide that, hey, I do not want to partake in any WWE, events moving forward because I cannot see myself associating with any of that nonsense, regardless if it's true or not. If I find myself associating it, you can get, you can get protesters and people coming up to you saying, well, you are basically supporting these negative accusations made about the former CEO that, altogether is, regardless if you like it or not, he was part of the WWE. That is just the unfortunate truth. And like I said, as someone who grew up watching nothing but WWE because that was the only thing available on television, you grew to love a lot of these storylines, a lot of these, a lot of these people, especially Vince McMahon, who was the creation behind a lot of these, athletes. Well, now you take that away, that's corrupted. Now you get John Laurinaitis being involved into the middle of this. You also just can't help but think, who else is involved? I was texting Steve last night about this, and we're making this. I'm like, there's a lot of wrestling. You got, Hunter, Kane, Taker, Sean, during the time frame, during especially the earlier days, and I'm like, who else could you possibly think could be tied along to this? Yeah, this was an office move, but when you're taking advantage, you're reaching out to hundreds of people, and it's like, man, I sure hope, because a lot of things have happened between the Hulk Hogan stories and the Ric Flair stories, now the McMahon stories. You just sure hope that some of the wrestlers that you grew up watching, that you grew up to learn to love and to honestly think that they're pure, and they're hard willing. You just hope that they don't cross or have never crossed that line, because ultimately you change your opinion. I was a Hulk Hogan fan until I heard the story of Hulk Hogan, forcing his hand upon the WWF championship when he defended the title and lost it against Taker back in 92, I believe, or like something like that. And I just thought, like, dude, what the biggest liar he could be. How can I ever support the guy? Ric Flair, huge fan, love what he's done. Never will take away what type of impact he's left. He's one of those guys who deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore. But the things that he's done, there's just no excuses. Vince McMahon, I think he's gonna go. It's always go down as one of the greatest businessmen of all time. But with these accusations, it's hard just to find yourself associating with this product. Anyways, I've ramped a lot on the WWE, and it's a big deal. I'll keep an eye out, but I just thought that was pretty interesting. Vince Russo putting that up there to begin that on X. Let me see if I could actually retweet it. Yeah, let me go ahead and retweet it, repost it, like it. People can watch it. Okay, get a lot of views. Check that out. All right. I want to change my focus point a little bit. I don't know how much I'll get into this right now, but the Cincinnati Reds seem to find themselves in a Cincinnati Bengals, by mistake, seem to find themselves in a desperate position heading into this offseason. Ever since signing and drafting Joe Burrow, thinking that now, hey, Joe Burrow is going to be the franchise quarterback and he get this contract extension. I think there was a timetable being in place, and now we're at the end of that timetable, and we're seeing all of this unravel. And to be honest, I think the Bengals are failing to execute some of these game plans. The past 3 years, the number one conversation for the Bengals offseason is what can they do to better themselves on their offensive line game. because you got to protect Burrow. And last year, I think, was the first year that we saw a lot of consistency. You ain't going to get the best of the best coming to Cincinnati. You maybe get one or two, but you ain't getting all 5 linemen. But the linemen stayed healthy for a majority of the season, and I think they did their job exclusively. Now, I go out to defend the linemen, and listen, like I said, I argue that they have to battle, and they got a 5 to 10 second window, and if Burrow doesn't get the ball off within 7 to 8 seconds, and he finds himself locked up in the pocket, then that's on him. If he has to scramble each and every time. I mean, I'm sorry. What else do you expect these linemen to do? I know they get paid to block, but these plays are not designed for 15, 20-second runoffs on the clock. You block for 3 to maybe 7 seconds at best. If the ball's not off, you're screwed, man. And then the linemen get blamed. But every year for the past three years, and apparently this year, it's the linemen. You got to keep on looking for better linemen. Okay, I look at that. Last year, though, one of the questions heading into the offseason was how are we going to restore, with a lot of your personnels on your defense hitting the free agent market. How are we going to replace these guys with NFL ready players? And one of their solutions were, hey, we're going to rely on a lot of our younger guys and utilize our draft positions this year to better ourselves. And I'm not saying that they didn't do a good enough job. I just think, the younger talent you go, the lack of experience you have at the NFL level, and you will get criticized left and right. Well, now we sit here on year 3, and now not only you're asking yourselves how to better your offensive line, you can for sure use a couple of better guys down in the backfield on your defense as safety or cornerbacks. But then now you got to ask about your slot receivers, because you had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Well, you don't have Tyler Boyd anymore. I mean, he's hitting the free agent market, and he's wanting to expand his options of other teams and seeing how much he could get paid. T. Higgins, I wouldn't be reminiscent to see T. Higgins at least see what options he has out there before he decides that he's going to sign back with the Bengals. So you're possibly out of 2 receivers. Joe Mixon, although he is, good when he gets the ball, he's a decent receiver. He has complications heading into off the field, which I just don't know how much you can tie along to it. He made some, his family made some news earlier this week. But man, the Bengals seem to have themselves worked out for it. They just hired the quarterback coach, Dan Pitcher, as a new offensive coordinator. I don't know how that's going to work out. I really don't. But you can't, with how the Browns, how the Steelers, and definitely how the Ravens have been playing over this past, year, I'm expecting this AFC North to continue to thrive. And if the Bengals aren't at the top of that division, then they're going to be stuck at the middle. And if they don't have these questions answered, then I think you're going to have difficulties moving forward. I mean, a lot of people are relying on Joe Burrow to be that solution, and he just can't be that solution. Let's come on back. Hour number 2, some baseball talk. We'll wrap up this football conversation and then work our way into the Royal Rumble. Hour number 2 coming up next. You guys are listening to the Throwing on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, hour number 2 here on the program. Head over to our Twitter account at TNC Sports Talk. Just put up a couple of polls there for you guys. Who's going to win the Universal WWE Championship and who's going to win the who's going to win the oh my goodness, I'm having such a brain. Who's going to win the U.S. Championship? So, join us, select those polls, lock in your answers. I'll tell you hopefully we could get some studies going on there. Hour number 2 is given to you thanks to Spreaker, Spreaker.com. Not only download and listen to podcasting on a podcasting app there, but Spreaker offers so much more. If you have a podcast, you create a Spreaker account and upload your podcast, view analytics, and be able to monetize your podcast. You can check out their free versions at Spreaker.com. Spreaker has a big distribution center across Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and much more. All right, we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals at the end of hour number 2, and I truly feel like there is a bit of a panic button, a little bit of a desperation that's coming into this this offseason. I was texting a friend of mine earlier, pop it up, and I asked him the legitimate question. I was actually talking to him on Thursday. I was like, as a Bengals fan, because I want to just hear as a Bengals fan, are you worried about the team next year? And if not, why? He goes out and says, I'm not worried because the season, is Joe's revenge year. Joe is going to show everyone why he is a number 2 quarterback. Well, first of all, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, number 2 quarterback. Don't Cincinnati Bengals fans believe you're number 1 quarterback? I'm like, and then I was like, replying was like, what talent? He goes on and says that you got Chase and T. Higgins. I'm not convinced that even if you have T. Higgins re-signing, you have to have a 1-2-3 combination. I wanted to make sure I was like, listen, man, it's not like I'm not doing anything personal. Like I'm not trying to stir up any bubbles, but come on, like give me your authentic one. Then I kind of got to him and I was like, he was like, honestly, I'm a little bit worried about, T and the O-line. He was like, Missy could go. I'm a bit worried about most of the players that contracts are up, like TB, DJ, T, and there's some other people. All right. So, we had a conversation a little bit. And I think, the purpose, the point is that you just can't put yourself around on a quarterback. Joe Burrow's good when you got good players around him. Don't make his life difficult. He's not a Tom Brady. He's not a Peyton Manning. He's not a Ben Roethlisberger. He's going to perform well. He's going to show off his talents when you have a solid offensive team. Yes, that does include with the O-line, but if you look into it, there's numerous of free agencies, hitting the market this year. The Bengals were very clear that they were going to mark on Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. And even Jamar Chase is up in the air about, he's questioning. He's like, do I really want to stick with the Bengals this year if this is what we have to look forward to? Jamar Chase, I do not want to see another AJ Green in Jamar Chase. A player who's very talented, a player who has what it takes, who deserves a championship ring, but then does not get it because he is being held back from what the other positions acquire. And so like I said, my testament to this is that Joe Burrow, is not the only player on the team. Jamar Chase is not the only player on the team. The Bengals have to do their due diligence and offering a compelling contract to both T. Higgins and to, I'd say, Tyler Boyd, if not Joe Mixon. And if you do not get Tyler Boyd and you do not get, Joe Mixon, you really have to be aggressive in the offseason with the free agents. If you're going to make up your decision on if you're going to keep who, X, Y, and Z, and start building from there. Because this draft, you're not going to get, I don't know if you're getting a star caliber wide receiver this year's draft. I don't even know if you're going to get a 3-slot receiver in this year's draft. You may need to draft another O-lineman. You may need to draft a defensive back yet again. I don't know. And like I said, you could draft a receiver, you could draft a running back, but you're not getting anything special. You're not getting any top tier performers. You're not getting a Jamar Chase in this fact. The Bengals have to figure out their slot receivers, running back situation, their O-line situation, and now their defense situation. When you have those many questions heading into this offseason, when they have in the last 3 years, planned, hey, all right, we could take care of one side of the ball each and every year, but obviously it hasn't worked out, then I'm a bit concerned. I'm a bit concerned about their progression. Talking about sports, I'm going to transition into baseball. Chicago Cubs hire relief pitcher Hector Neris, former Houston Astros. I just saw that on Twitter. But I had a consideration for baseball, and I was actually thinking about this. I'm not going to go steal credit. Scraby from the 97.3 The Fans earlier this week talked about this and the possibility of how this could work. And I want to weigh in on this because I was considering it. The question is, should MLB consider reconstructing their offseason format to create more conversational pivot points during the offseason? So, around this time, there's a lot of dead space in news and coverage of Major League Baseball. Right now, we're kind of at the standstill point where majority of the teams are just looking to get to spring training. All your, top tier free agents that were going to get dealt, it's gotten it dealt. The free agents that are available now, teams are waiting until they start lowering their price so that if they want to add one or two pieces during the off season or during spring training, they can do so. And my argument was, and that's just true, because when you think about why football is really a great sport to talk about, because there are legitimate questions year around that keep the conversation pieces going. But when you look at, and then it goes down to maybe NBA and then baseball and then hockey. And, when baseball stops, unless you're a baseball channel, like here on this program, and you cover a local baseball team, then a lot of times you find yourself in that predicament that once the World Series ends, or hell, even once your team was eliminated, you move on to the next thing, and you have to wait until, maybe you'll get a trade here and there, but there's nothing really much to go jumping up and down with, and then you have to wait until spring training to really start talking about your professional team again. But what if MLB reconstructed that format? We see winter meetings the first couple weeks of December. We see arbitration, which is in February, right before pitchers and catchers report. So, but you kind of had this empty spot in the month of January where you're just waiting. And what I was kind of thinking was formatting a 2 to maybe 3 week span of free agent signings where there is a window, January 1st to January 20th, let's just say. Major League Baseball can sign free agents. That's what I'm predicting. I'm spitballing this. So you go, you go through the winter meetings in December. You go through the holidays in November, December. You celebrate, you get into the new year. Come the new year, you get 3 months, only 3 months, to sign free agents that hit the market. And then maybe after that, so January 21st, then you would have maybe 2 to 3 weeks if you were looking to maybe trade from another team, cash consideration, whatever the case may be. And then by the time that ends, you have pitchers and catchers reporting, spring training is starting. And then maybe you allow yourself 1 to 2 weeks for free agents in spring training to be signed. And then you don't have, when the season officially starts, I'd say the day before the home openers, that is when you can sit there and say, okay, everything's open for grabs. Because as a fan, someone who is trying to come on this program and share with you baseball knowledge, there's a lot of dead period, especially if you're a team like, maybe like, for example, Miami. Miami has made absolutely zero moves this offseason to better their team. They haven't made a free agent signing. They haven't traded anybody. Zero moves. Compared to the Dodgers, where they've done all of their bidding up at the beginning of the year with Shohei Ohtani. And then now, they seem just to be adding and adding and adding. If you, put that format down, it may also benefit the players. Especially when it comes down, there's a lot of free agents out there. I know Jock Peterson was working on signing a deal with Arizona earlier this week, from what I heard. But what this also allows is that now players know, hey, this is where we're expected to go. Let's go move and settle down for the season or for whatever time frame it is. Instead of having to just sit around twiddling their thumbs until they get that phone call. I don't know. I don't think Major League Baseball isn't going to consider this. But this allows you in the month of January for, the whatever weeks going on, analysts could really start breaking down. So you'll start seeing a lot of free agent signings. You'll see a lot of things going on, negotiations to work out. Because then you're like, all right, well, you know what? If you don't sign by the end of January, then you're going to have to now wait until midst of the spring training. Maybe we'll give you a week to open up that. If not, you have to wait until the beginning of the season. If that's the case, maybe players will consider, or managers will consider, because that option may not be on the table come spring training. For players, you may consider signing quicker at a lesser deal. But it gives us also on this end a chance to talk about a lot of things very quickly. like I said, there's a lot of down period because most teams do their stuff back in December, early January. So now we're just waiting for spring training to start. If you put in the element of this, it kind of just spreads things out and it makes it seem like, the off season is always being busy, and it seems like, people always making deals, and you get a lot of conversation of, what's happening around a Major League Baseball. I don't know, a consideration. I don't think that they're going to do it, but hey, who knows? That's just me, personal preference there. All right, let's take a break. When we come on back, we're going to transition into the Royal Rumble because that is happening tonight on Peacock. So let's talk about that as hour number 2 continues. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
are now in the presence of a king.
All right. I was just kind of resetting myself here during the break. Got hooked onto a little video talking about the Cincinnati Reds, which is always great. But you know what? We're heading into the Royal Rumble, and I think that's a pivotal conversation piece heading into this back end of today's program. The Royal Rumble that will be aired tonight at Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, Florida, begins 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, earlier this week, I've kind of made my case on a couple of decisions already. So, and I've also been on, the Armchair Booking Wrestling podcast program in the Royal Rumble preview. So if you guys have already listened to that, then a lot of this is going to be very similar to it. I'm just going to maybe fine tune things and get things kind of on the roll. Other than that, I mean, you could check out our website coming up here. I want to say in about an hour, if my time is correct. I have published a blog of an article about this year's Royal Rumble, what it entails, and who we could see, walk out headlining, guaranteeing a ticket to WrestleMania. Isn't that the important part? We got 4 matches, very nice and simple. 2 of those matches are going to probably be about an hour long itself, because you have the women's and men's Royal Rumble match, 30 contestants each. 90 seconds is supposed to be the interval between entrances. And to win, you got to throw your opponent over the top rope. And both feet have to be touching the ground. So before I get started, I would like to share some statistics I saw. This is very well detailed, by the way. This is available on www.smarkoutmoment.com. Smarkoutmoment.com is where you can find this at. Winning records from the first one back in 1988 was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He entered number 13. I believe Yokozuna in 93 was the first time they'd go on to enter the entries in gray didn't receive a WrestleMania match. So to hear 93 Yokozuna, who entered number 27, was the first person who received a WrestleMania match. 2008, John Cena, accordingly, I guess, did not receive a WrestleMania match. Braun Strowman at the Greatest Royal Rumble, obviously. Triple H at number 30 in 2016. Either because it wasn't ruled at the time, the title was on the line during the Rumble, which that was true in 2016, or they opt out of the title shot prior to WrestleMania. Entries in red felt their WrestleMania challenges, which is quite a bit more so as late. So I was looking at this here. I was just kind of just pop out guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Brock Lesnar's won it, Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, Randy Orton, Triple H, Shinsuke Nakamura, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, Ronda Rousey, Cody Rhodes this past year, Rhea Ripley, who entered number 1 last year, also won it. So then we go down in victories. Only one superstar has won it once, and that is Stone Cold Steve, or 3 times, excuse me. That's Stone Cold Steve Austin. 8 superstars has held it twice, has won it twice. Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, John Cena, Batista, Triple H, Randy Orton, Edge, and Brock Lesnar. Now, Edge is out in AEW. Brock Lesnar seems right now to be on the swing of maybe he'll be there, maybe he won't. John Cena, I know his days are numbered. Batista says he's retired. Triple H, you won't see. Shawn Michaels, you won't see. Hulk Hogan, you won't see. So there's only 3 potential candidates for this year's Men Royals Rumble: Randy Orton, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, who could enter and win again, and being the third. The question is Stone Cold going to be the only superstar that ever wins 3, and is he going to sit alone forever? Lucky numbers with most wins, number 30 has 5 wins. Number 1 entrance, number 1, 27, and 28 all have 4 wins. With 3 wins is entrance number 24. Suitable numbers. So number facts, interesting number facts. Batista is the only person to win from the same spot twice at number 28. 2007, 08 is, as well as 2022 and 2023, were the only times that the same number won in a succession of both number 30. That was Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar, 22-23. And then that was The Undertaker and John Cena entered in number 30. Interesting. When adjusted for inflation, Hacksaw Jim Duggan's number 13th entrance went out of 20 wrestlers instead of 30, becomes the equivalent of number 19 and a half, rounded up to 20 by today's standards. When adjusted by deflation, Alberto Del Rio's number 38 win out of 40s, translation to number 28 and a half. That was the only year that they had 40 contenders, besides the greatest Royal Rumble ever, which I don't think we're really going to count that. If you factor in all current 44 Royal Rumble winners as of 2003, the average winning entry is number 19.37 adjusted to 8.81 normal, making them most likely to win either 19 or 20. Statistics show that entries 1 through 10 has produced 11 winners, entries 11 through 20 has produced 7, and entries 21 through 30 has produced 26 winners, if you count the record of entry number 38 and number 41. Therefore, 59% of the time, all winners from 21 to 30, 25% from 1 to 10, 15% from 11 to 20. WWE has made a concerted effort to have more 11 to 20 winners from 2013 onward, as prior to that they only had 2 happen out of 26 times. Elimination records. Interesting. Now we get into, they break down the individual, like the most, who eliminated the most each and every year. Like in 2002, Steve Austin and Taker eliminated 7. Batista and Edge in 2005 eliminated 5. And, Roman Reigns in 2014 eliminated 12. In 2001, Kane eliminated 11. I think that was a record for a long time. I don't count the greatest Royal Rumble, which Braun Strowman eliminated 13, but Brock Lesnar eliminated 13 in 2020. Cody Rhodes last year eliminated 5. He held that record, with Rhea Ripley eliminating 7. Kane has the most, with 45 eliminations as Kane, and 1 elimination as Isaac Yankem. The Undertaker holds the second place as 40. Shawn Michaels 39 recognized eliminations. Stone Cold's in third at 36. Creeping up on that, Roman Reigns is at 32, along with Brock Lesnar, Triple H, and The Big Show. Randy Orton has 29. John Cena has 25. Edge has 25. Punk has 18. Rhodes has 18, as they both expect to enter in tonight's Royal Rumble match. For the women's, Rhea Ripley has a total of 20 eliminations, followed by 15 in Charlotte Flair, Shayna Baszler in 14, so on, so forth. Average most eliminations, 6+ eliminations. That's out of everyone. Fewest eliminations to win. Vince McMahon had 1. Randy Orton had 1. Then they get down into the time frames. Who had the longest time frames? Gunther hold that new record, replacing Rey Mysterio's at 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 25 seconds. That was reported by commentary, but they actually have 40 seconds reported by WWE.com. He entered as number 1. Chris Jericho holds the most time in history inside the Royal Rumble, with almost nearly 5 hours of time in there, which is crazy. So, Daniel Bryan, 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 5 seconds, longest Iron Man time. That was at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Gunther, who we mentioned in 2023, Rey Mysterio had it in 2006, 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 12 seconds, as that was the year that he went to go on and win the championship at Mania. Men's shortest time in Iron Man time is John Cena with 22 minutes. That was back in 2010. Rhea Ripley holds the longest time as 1 hour, 1 minute, and 8 seconds. That was last year. Shortest men's Royal Rumble time, Santino Marella with 1.9 seconds in 2009. Last year, Chelsea Green only had 5 seconds in the ring. Looking at some more of these statistics. It got everything. Appearances. Kane has a total of 20 appearances, 18 as Kane, 1 as Isaac Yankem, and 1 as the Fake Diesel. Dolph Ziggler holds the second highest with Kofi Kingston at 15. Randy Orton holds 14. So I think Kofi Kingston entering in this year, he'll hold 16 in that second spot. The Miz and Rey Mysterio and Goldust hold number 13. And I think it's a lot more because you have both the both men and women's now. Now, what's also interesting to this chart from 2000 and they only have a few layouts. It looks like they only have a few layouts, maybe. But in 2000, they have every year, I believe. Yep, every year. Whether you're a face or a heel, faces being in blue, heels being in red, they highlighted in a Excel chart all the entrances from heels to faces and who won. Black, I don't think was even it wasn't even a layout at that time. From 2007 to last year, which I think is pretty impressive as well. But this year, being held, I just thought to share with some of you that those Rumble statistics, because every year you can go out and argue that, hey, let's look what are records that could be broken that we can look to see. We see some crazy things. We see Kofi Kingston, not being thrown out of the ring, but then landing on the table, on the chair, on the barricade. Just a few years ago, Liv Morgan, Mandy Rose landed on Otis, and then she entered, was able to enter back in. And so it's kind of like every year, how can we outdo one another? So I thought that, and the Royal Rumble is what they indicate to be the road to WrestleMania. It begins there. I think tonight we will see the first image that they would officially go to, that they will hang up out there in the crowd of the WrestleMania symbol. So that's pretty for me. This is it's a fun time. I just I just want as a fan just enjoy it. But when we come back, bottom half of the hour, let's get to you in our predictions of the Royal Rumble matches, our official predictions. Here coming up next. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right. So, like I mentioned, we're finding positives into this year's Royal Rumble match or event, PLE. There's only 4 matches, 2 of them being the men and women's Royal Rumble. And then there is that, that official road to WrestleMania field. So let's get into that here. I want to first give a big shout out to Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. Also, a couple things that we could be looking forward to next week. Major League Baseball has released their top 10s at every position. I'd like to take a look at that and see if there's any Cincinnati Reds players that to make the top 10 cut, and how much of an influence does that lead into heading in, for us heading into the spring training this season. Like I said, coming up next week, we'll definitely talk about the Royal Rumble. We'll talk about who's won the men and the women's Royal Rumble match, what's going to happen, who do they place, what is the directive, and then we'll talk about who's going to the Super Bowl. Now that's a 2-week span. So we got things to talk about that I'm looking forward to heading into the next couple of weeks. But this one here first, we talk about the Royal Rumble. What's unique about the Royal Rumble is that, yes, this indicates the path of WrestleMania. And this is where brainstorming a lot can really help build a creativity. Now, maybe the WWE is throwing out hints of, all right, so-and-so is going to win. And this is the direction that we're going to go down. Well, it still never hurts to kind of brainstorm. And I've done a lot of that this past week because I could see multiple positions on how the WWE can approach maybe a WrestleMania match feud. Think about this. The Royal Rumble is today. Let me just do some math. You got about 10 weeks before WrestleMania. And within 10 weeks, you got about one more PLE and Elimination Chamber. So whatever you don't get done now, you get done at the Elimination Chamber. But those 10 weeks are going to fly by pretty fast. So, sometimes creating these storylines, it begins now. It begins tonight. Not just in WrestleMania, not just in the Royal Rumble match, winners itself, but maybe along in the match. So let's just kind of go down this line here. We first see the United States Championship, Kevin Owens versus Logan Paul. My take on this right now, I feel like Logan Paul they put WWE, as a matter of fact, has put the title on Logan Paul a bit too soon. He's done nothing but take this championship and spread it across social media in a positive and negative way. I don't have a problem with that, but he hasn't really defended his title as much. So we haven't seen what type of fighting champion Logan could be. And when you have Roman Reigns on SmackDown, who is limited on his on his matches and title defenses, right? Then you throw in Logan Paul and the United States Championship. Well, you maybe would consider, hey, all right, if I don't have Roman competing night in, night out, I'm going to ask our secondary title to step up a bit more, and that's Logan Paul. And we haven't seen that. So I don't mind the social media stuff, but maybe that could definitely be used as a trend or leverage heading into WrestleMania this year. Kevin Owens is a good opponent, but let's face the harsh reality. Logan Paul is looking to defend that title at Mania. That's why they put it on him. So this is just another work between Owens, who I think can make anybody look good, and Logan Paul, who could definitely use, some in ring work before WrestleMania. So I think this one's simple. Logan Paul keeps the United States Championship. It's probably my least favorite match I'm looking forward to in the night, just because it's gonna kill a whole lot of space. But I mean, oh well. All right. The women's Royal Rumble match. I've said this before. You could read it in the blog that gets posted here in about an hour from now, in regards to who I think is going to win. A lot of people were kind of throwing out maybe Nia Jax, maybe Becky Lynch. Steve threw out the idea that a Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley feud to a title defense could happen, and I'm all for that. But does Becky really need a Royal Rumble win to have a good feud with Rhea Ripley? I don't think so. There was also the idea, because there was a couple I even mentioned. I was like, we haven't seen Raquel Rodriguez in quite some time, and I know she's dealing with some health issues. I don't remember the last time I saw Liv Morgan, Alexa Bliss. She just had a child, Jade Cargill, who has yet to debut. These are all entrances that we could be surprised about. I mean, we saw Trish and Lita last year. Could we see them partake in the Rumble match itself? So who knows? And that's what I think a lot of fans get excited for, is the luxury of the element of surprise, because then anything could possibly happen. But I gotta stick my ground in predicting a bold prediction, in that I think Bayley could be a good candidate. And she may be overlooked, but I think she could be a good candidate for winning this Royal Rumble. She's been dealing with being a outcast of Damage Control. Remember, Bayley's the one who founded and created Damage Control, but yet now she's being treated as an outcast, saying, with Io Sky, the new women's tag team champions, congratulations to the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, who won them last night on SmackDown. And then, Dakota Kai, right? The members of Damage Control that have expanded thanks to Bayley has now revolved back around to Io Sky holding that women's champion. Well, I guess you have to just start analyzing and start asking yourself, well, we're heading into WrestleMania. You're expecting Io Sky to defend her championship. Who could win? Who could potentially win, in my opinion? And for me, or who could potentially be an opponent for her? Jade Cargill? I don't think so. With Asuka and Kairi Sane holding those tag team titles, I don't think that's going to happen. Dakota Kai, she's kind of on the sideline as this cheerleader. No disrespect to her. Bayley's the only one. She's being cited as an outcast. And by winning the Rumble, and this is a theoretical hypothesis of what we could potentially see, but imagine Bayley winning the Rumble. Okay, now Damage Control seems to have all the power in the world. Damage Control, Io Sky determines, hey, we're going to actually back you up now, support you. And Bayley doesn't make her decision right away, and she decides to turn and say, you know what? For the way you guys have been treating me lately, I'm going to go after you. And now there's more of a story connect, because they both had the leverage. The Royal Rumble win is utilizing that. And now this, you can see Bayley, Io Sky, championship match, WrestleMania, and now it makes sense. And now it's built the element of hype, probably not as good as a Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley, but it creates a hype. And I think that we could go for that. So I'm going to go a wild card, and Bayley has a good chance at winning. I'm choosing Bayley this year. Men's Royal Rumble match this year. CM Punk is entering. Cody Rhodes is entering. I know they had a face-off back on Monday in a feud, and, we've seen it before where, maybe a feud sparks, but then it doesn't really take place for months on end. in my opinion, I'm going to go out to a left field prediction and saying Finn Balor can win. We know that Seth Rollins is hurt. We know that Seth Rollins will most likely drop the title at WrestleMania if he can make it that long. We know that Finn Balor's contract is coming up to an end here. And we also know that Damian Priest has that Money in the Bank briefcase that allows him to cash in that title anytime, anywhere. So one of the things that I've kind of been craving to see is a Finn Balor Damian Priest and feud. And I don't know how long we're gonna get that. Maybe if we could get that stretched out to WrestleMania, we have an opportunity of seeing it. I think that they could do some magic in the ring. Personal opinion. So you think about Seth Rollins, Finn Balor is not no shy to a feud. I think Finn, this will be a good opportunity to put Seth Rollins out. In a sense of, hey, you ended up, you costed me my title by dislocating my shoulder back in 2016. I'm going to just pay you the visit. You tried it last year, failed. I'm going to try it again this year, and then see Damian Priest enter in, cash in that Money in the Bank. Maybe make it a triple threat match, and then you can have Damian pin, I don't know, Finn Balor. The possibilities are endless. Now we talk about those individual moments that happen along the match that maybe create a storyline. Well, we talked about CM Punk, Cody Rhodes having that feud. I mean, and who knows? Maybe Cody Rhodes, he is determined to finish that story, right? But that determination, it only goes to the extent of, having to win another Royal Rumble match. I don't think he needs it. I don't think he needs to become a 2-time right now. What Cody can do, is CM Punk could toss Cody over. Maybe this could lead into a match down the road. Maybe this is the WrestleMania match. But I have different ideas that can alternate for the reason why Cody wouldn't win. So bold prediction. This may not happen, but bold prediction, Finn Balor wins the Royal Rumble. All right, then last but not least, save the best for last in this sense. The Universal WWE Championship, AJ Styles for taking on LA Knight, Randy Orton, and Roman Reigns. We have a lot going on in this match with, we're going to hopefully see the first view of if we're getting Dwayne versus Roman. We also know that Roman probably should be defending his title at Mania, or that title should be defended at Mania. We also know in this Fatal 4-Way match alone that Randy Orton is seeking out revenge of the Bloodline for taking him out. He's also seeking to become a 15-time champion. He's been saying that lately. And then LA Knight, his in-ring work last year has really, sparked attention. He deserves a title opportunity. AJ Styles is probably the only odd duck out that I don't see where he belongs in this. But you know what? You got 4 men. You can take some workload off of Randy, who just came back from some back end surgeries. You could take some work off of Roman and highlight AJ Styles and LA Knight. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Roman does not have to win. Anything also does go. So is there a chance that we could see Solo Sikoa and one, and what is it, Jimmy Uso interfere in the match? Absolutely. But that means I'm going to go out on a bold limb. If we're seeing The Rock and Roman at Mania, I just don't see the purpose of seeing, The Rock, Roman defend his title also at some point. And I definitely don't see the purpose of Roman defending the title against The Rock. So why not drop it? Because he's a whole nother year behind Bob Backlund, Hulk Hogan, and I don't know if he's going to. You may be able to surpass Bob Backlund. I don't know about Hulk Hogan. Maybe you do that, maybe you don't. I don't know. But you drop the title. I say drop the title. You can focus on The Rock. That's main event night 2. There you go. Well, who do you drop it to? Randy Orton. The only other person that logically makes sense on dropping it. And then now when Cody Rhodes has to finish the story, you can see Cody Rhodes take on Randy Orton, which then this story now still evolves because now you have two friends who grew up in the industry together, who worked together with legacy. And for me, it's just it's a picture perfect setting. I know it's a left field statement, it's a left field bold prediction, but it's a picture perfect statement to see a Cody and Randy at Mania. You may not get it next year. Most likely, you probably won't get it next year. There's no promises. Out of Dwayne Johnson. Triple H has been giving fans what they want. Why, if this was to happen, maybe I'm the only person predicting this, but if this is to happen, who wouldn't say this would be a great match? All right, that is all the time we have. I predict Randy Orton winning, becoming the new champion, heading out of Royal Rumble, but we will all have to see the Royal Rumble tonight on Peacock, and tune us back in on Monday where we will do nothing but talk about everything that unfolded at the Rumble, who's going to the Super Bowl, and much more. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button for more content. Be sure to check out our website at www.tncsportstalkshow.com for all the latest info. And until Monday, you guys have yourself a wonderful weekend. Take care. We'll see you later on. Until next time, thank you guys for tuning into the Throne on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.